Imperial Beach is a beach town, both a tourist destination and a community of around 25,000 citizens. Imperial Beach is home to the Sandcastle tournaments, as well as many locally owned businesses such as Giant Pizza King, Oli Plank Bar, and Pizzeria Luigi, just to name a few. The Tijuana River crisis has been going on for decades, since the 1940s, but only recently, within the past decade, has the issue grown significantly. With over 1,000 days and still counting of the beach being closed, individuals such as Chris Helmer has been working hard to find and implement a permanent solution.
So the issue in the Tijuana River has really been going on for decades, and it really has to do with the lack of wastewater infrastructure and pollution control infrastructure south of the border. All water flows downhill, so does all pollution. And that ultimately ends up in Tijuana River Valley, and once it ends up into the ocean, it ends up drifting by currents up into our coast. The real solutions to this is, the upstream solutions interventions is what we're working towards, empowering Tijuana, Mexico to really have a functioning water and wastewater system, have functioning trash service, have utilities for the residents. But in the meantime, we all realize that we can't rely on Mexico to implement these controls themselves. So that is why we want the federal government and the agency in the River Valley to implement pollution controls. So as the water flows across the border, you're able to capture and treat the polluted water. As trash comes across the border, you're able to put trash booms in, stop the trash from getting into the natural areas where it's really hard to remove. I guess the real difficult part here is that you really do rely on the federal government stepping up and helping implement these binational programs and funding sources to control this pollution coming from Mexico. The sad reality of this is the farther you get away from the policymaking folks, so the farther you are away from DC, which we're pretty far away, and the farther you are away from Sacramento, the harder it is to implement these policies. And we're pretty far away from both those places, from both the state and the federal side. So it's taken a lot of effort to educate and inform our elected folks, educate and inform the rest of the community that our issues matter. God, well, it takes a crisis for all the agencies to come together and start working on a solution. And the problem is that it requires so many local, state, and federal agencies to be working together that by the time you implement a solution, you get everyone agreed upon on a solution, you get it designed, constructed, and implemented. That takes many years, and by the time that happens, it's already undersized for the amount of that Tijuana has grown and the amount of the pollution that we've seen coming across the border. So we really need to be more proactive about how do we address the implementation of pollution control measures in the border. The sewage crisis at Imperial Beach is just devastating for our residents. It's heart-wrenching for both me and the citizens that have been here for a long time that have to live day in, day out with not only the sewage that's in the water, but the daily reminder of the smell. That when you can smell the pollution, you know it's not good. We've always had poor water quality in Imperial Beach, and we've always been working on trying to address the marginal water quality and the trash that's coming down to River Valley. But the issue is so bad right now that you smell it every single day. It's so bad right now that people's healths are being impacted who live down by the coast or who are living in the River Valley. We really need to have greater intervention coming in here from both the state and the federal government to take greater responsibility to make sure that this doesn't happen, and the measures that we're implementing right now to actually stop and control this pollution, which are standard measures, it's wastewater treatment plants, it's trash booms, that these actually get implemented and we don't delay through the slow government procurement process to get these things built and maintained. Well, there's a number of federal solutions that are in the works right now. The Environmental Protection Agency has come up with a comprehensive infrastructure solution. It's a plan that they've actually laid out, kind of a comprehensive fix of both infrastructure that addresses wastewater and infrastructure that addresses the trash coming across the border. There's kind of three main projects. One, to repair and expand their national wastewater treatment plant. Second one is to build a U.S. side river diversion to be able to treat the flow of water in the river. And the third one is to really implement water recycling projects in Mexico, because at some point in the future, and we all realize this, water is a resource, and any water flowing down the river valley is going to be of value for the citizens of Tijuana. So we want Mexico to implement these water recycling programs that then adds value to the polluted water that's in the river. And then that water can be reused, and thus is not coming across the border and causing pollution in our area. The solutions are not difficult to come up with. The harder part is getting the agencies involved and willing to implement the solutions. This requires both state and federal leadership. It requires both political support for this, but also technical support from the agencies. We have great support locally for this to be solved. The issue is that this requires the federal government and the state to come in here to actually implement some large projects. It also is not necessarily the cost of constructing these interventions, it's the ongoing operation and maintenance to maintain trash booms, to maintain wastewater treatment plants, and the policies that need to go into place to ensure that Mexico pays its fair share for these interventions that are going in along the border. Oh man. It has taken way too long for the Tijuana River issue to get resolved. It is ongoing and it's continuing to get worse. What we really need is the agencies and the federal governments to prioritize implementations of solutions. And where we've been arguing locally is we need the federal government to implement a new procurement process in order to expedite the implementation of these projects. We can't follow the traditional route of government because it takes a decade or more to plan a large new wastewater treatment plant. So we've been asking for a state of emergency. All of our local agencies have declared local states of emergency. We've asked the state of California to declare a similar one, and we're asking the federal government to also declare a state of emergency. And what that allows is essentially for these government agency processes to short circuit the normal long bureaucratic process to develop projects, and actually requires these agencies to coordinate and to implement these known solutions, which are not that difficult. We already have a comprehensive infrastructure solution plan, a plan on paper, put on by the Environmental Protection Agency. Now it's just a matter of how do you start chipping away those projects without being held up by the typical slow process of government.